Tell me, Bart, are you ever bored in school?
Oh, you bet.
Mm-hmm. Ever feel a little frustrated?
All the time, sir.
Well, I like Bart Simpson a lot because, well, I look like him. People say, come up to me and say, they go, Bart, Bart, because I used to be the little Bart Simpson in my family.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Chicago Tonight. I'm Bruce DuMont, sitting in for John Calloway, who has the week off. He's 10 years old and introduces himself, "Hi, I'm Bart Simpson. Who the hell are you?" He calls adults by their first names and tells his father, "Don't have a cow, Homer." He says, "I'm an underachiever and proud of it, man." He's America's newest primetime anti-hero. Children love him, adults love the show, but some teachers think he's a bad role model for their students. Not since the Flintstones and the Jetsons in the 60s has television seen such a hit primetime cartoon character as The Simpsons. The show has proven so successful that Fox Broadcasting Company will place it opposite The Cosby Show in the fall. But should your children be watching The Simpsons? We'll talk about that right after this background report by Chicago Tonight's Chitra Ragavan.
Bart Simpson often is a bad boy.
Whoever did this is in very deep trouble.
And a sloppy speller, too.
His fans say that Bart's a good kid with a few bad ideas. They think he's cool. So cool that millions of Americans tune in to Fox Broadcasting Company every Sunday night to watch Bart Simpson and his family at their dysfunctional best.
Simpson.
Place.
Well, I like Bart Simpson a lot because, well, I look like him. People say, come up to me and say, they go, Bart, Bart, because I used to be the little Bart Simpson in my family.
It's cute, but I wouldn't want my kid to be like that.
I think it's his attitude. He's funny. He's like kind of a rebel. He gets away with things that a lot of kids probably don't get to get away with.
The Simpsons were created by cartoonist Matt Groening, who's best known for his Life in Hell comic strip. In a very short time, the Simpsons have become one of America's favorite families. But unlike another popular family, the Huxtables, the Simpsons are not all sweet and successful.
How could anyone make a word out of these lousy letters? Oh, wait, here's a good one. Do.
The father, Homer, for instance, is lazy, grumpy, and known to his boss as Bonehead. The mother, Marge, is good-natured but frustrated by her family's antics. Their daughter, Lisa, is misunderstood and underrated. Their infant, Maggie, sucks incessantly on her pacifier. And then there's Bart.
My turn.
You little cheater.
I think Bart Simpson is a modern-day Dennis the Menace. I think that he's very appealing because he represents the dark side of human nature. I was talking to a mother earlier today, and she said she liked the Bart Simpson show because it was honest.
The Simpsons have become a surprise primetime hit for Fox Broadcasting Company. Their fame has brought fortune to some enterprising businesses because Bart Simpson and the Simpson family have become the new darlings of merchandising.
We brought out the Simpsons merchandise in February, and it's been an exceptional category for Arcadia.
I think it's pretty neat. I've already bought a couple shirts, and some of the stuff is pretty good.
I went to the Cubs game on Memorial Day, and I got a Bartman Cub fan t-shirt, so obviously I like them somewhat.
But as Bart might put it, some folks have had a cow over the show and some Simpsons t-shirts. Some teachers have even banned certain Bart t-shirts from their classrooms.
The t-shirt is the one that says, "Hi, I'm Bart Simpson, who the hell are you?" And I asked the children to please turn this shirt inside out. If they had nothing else, you know, like a gym shirt or art shirt that they would have used, turn it inside out and please ask them not to wear it again. And I explained to them it had nothing to do with Bart Simpson. It had to do with the word hell that was on the shirt.
But you do know what happens when you mix acids and bases, right?
Of course I do.
There are other aspects of TV that are probably more harmful than Bart Simpson. Certainly the way we sexualize everything, the aura that the commercials sometimes portray, you know, of what our values are. Some of the violence that's on TV can, I think, be even more objectionable than Bart Simpson.
Everybody seems to know that Bart is not successful, and the t-shirt that says I'm an underachiever and I'm proud of it is particularly disturbing.
Notorious and popular now, The Simpsons will be moving in the fall, opposite the Huxtables, Thursday nights at 7 on Fox Broadcasting. For Chicago Tonight, I'm Chitra Ragavan.
March your butt right out here, now!
No way, man!
But
And now joining us, we welcome Lillian Ides. She is assistant principal of the Link, Stevenson, and Dirksen Elementary Schools in Schaumburg. Ernest Tucker, who is entertainment writer for the Chicago Sun-Times, and Lucinda Lee Katz, principal and director designate of the University of Chicago Lab School, and Ms. Katz also is a member of the Erickson Institute faculty. Ernie Tucker, you're a big fan of this program. Why is it such a hit?
Well, I can only speak personally, but it's TV we haven't seen ever in the cartoon format, and as everyone knows, it's been years since prime time has taken cartoons seriously, and this has taken a quantum leap from the Dennis the Menace era into an era for the 90s. The dysfunctional family, the frustration with failure, father no longer knows best, he knows least in Homer Simpson, and it's just a great bit of entertainment.
Ms. Ides, as an adult, I understand you like the show. As an educator, you hate the show, but why do you think it's such a hit?
I think for much of what Ernie's saying, I agree that it does have its qualities, and I personally do like it as an adult. As an educator, I have some reservations about it. I'm concerned about some of the attitudes that I see portrayed. I think the irreverence that Bart shows towards his parents, towards other adults, is a little disturbing to me, and I do concern myself with the long-term effect of that kind of irreverence. So that's, you know, where I think it's headed, I believe.
Ms. Katz, is the irreverence, is that the key to its success?
I think so. I think every generation has found its outlet. We have had from Ozzie and Harriet, the Nelsons, to the Brady Bunch, and now on the other extreme we have something like Bart Simpson and his family, and I'm concerned that we are having such a hard time finding good role models in general. Let's make sure we're balanced.
But one of the criticisms of television families over the years, whether it was Father Knows Best or Ozzie and Harriet or the Brady Bunch, as you've just mentioned, is that they really created a false sense of what family life was like. Is this closer to reality than all of the above, in your view?
Well, I think what happens is that you see the Brady Bunch model, a prototype, and then you see the Simpsons, and you want to, as a parent, be able to comment on both and to say, you know, hopefully we're looking for something that works for our family.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of the rest of the family members? Most of the focus has been on Bratty Bart, but the rest of this family is not right out of Ozzie and Harriet, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will tell you that every family member is a stereotype of a person or a personality type. The mother is this sort of loosely structured, all-giving, mother-at-home concept, and the little baby and the second-born are all playing out parts. And I think just like we have in any family member, each person is trying to play out that part, and Bart is playing out the bad person.
Mm-hmm. And the father?
Probably the goofy, not so clear-thinking, not the, you know, archetype of
but at least he has a job. I mean, Ozzie Nelson here was a grown man who hung around at the malt shop all the time.
Well, sometimes Homer has a job. It depends, you know, on the week and the episode, whether he has a job or not.
What's the main complaint that you have as an educator?
I do think that as an educator, the experiences that we've had have been minimal so far at this point. You know, I think it's important to keep things into perspective, that we certainly could see worse things being emulated. But we have had a couple instances this year where children have worn the "I'm Bart Simpson, who the hell are you" t-shirts, and I have asked them to turn them inside out. It could be worse than that. So that's one thing that bothers me.
Is that an overreaction? Because there are some people listening to the program this evening who will applaud what you do. There's probably another large group of people that would say, why on earth in the 1990s are you getting upset with seeing the word hell on a t-shirt?
Well, I think the reason is I don't think it's an overreaction. Our district has a policy that says that anything that is immodest or could be considered provocative or disruptive to the educational process is something that we wouldn't really permit in the schools. And the least line of resistance is to ask the children to put on something else if they have another shirt there, such as in the junior high, they might have something.
So the word hell is disruptive to the education climate.
It could be, because
but
the
do
children...
you personally think it is?
I don't think it has a place there. And we've pretty much kept that, is that the schools are sort of the bastion of some degree of propriety. And in that capacity, I don't think that it has a place there. Yet I don't think we need to lose perspective of the broader issue. I certainly think that there are things that could be more disruptive. I think provocative clothing or something that's gang-related, could be much more disruptive to the process than that in itself.
Ernest Tucker, you know Matt Groening, who is the author and the creator of the series, which was created in about 15 minutes, we should mention, so you don't need a long line of achievement to gain this type of television success. Is he flabbergasted by the extent of this success and also by the controversy that it is created in some education circles?
Well, I think, yes, he is flabbergasted, Bruce. I mean, it's amazing, although he will tell you, if you ask him, that he knew this was going to be a success and a hit, just because it has such broad-based appeal. It's covering a lot of bases we've talked about, adults, kids, everyone likes it. In terms of the overall worth of the program and what he thinks of the success, he talked to me about the marketing and the marketing of that and the products, and he was appalled, but he said there's nothing he can do because the engines were already driving this program. And I think that's part of the story, that it's a big marketing success.
Do you think that it touches to any extent on some of the concerns that Lillian Ides has put on the table here this evening?
Well, I agree. I think schools do have the proprietary right. I mean, that's kind of by definition what schools are. Matt would take a very humorous view of it. The principal in that, the one we saw, is a principal wiener. I mean, and that's a stereotype. Most principals aren't that way. But he would say maybe principals have lost their sense of humor by doing this. I think there are some concerns, but then again, just the mere fact, maybe hell would be objectionable, but the word underachiever, any kid that knows that would probably be an overachiever by definition. And if they are underachievers, maybe it's a new club they could form. I don't know.
What about the underachiever banner that Bart wears so proudly? Again, a 10-year-old kid. There's a lot of 10-year-olds who are not achievers as yet, and don't they deserve their own role model?
Well, I would say that he clearly is an outlet for some parts of society. And as long as we keep our sense of humor, as Ernie has suggested, and as long as we have families that are working hard to keep kids involved in family life and so forth, we're okay. But we have American families that are not doing that today. And I just want to make sure that role models are out there for our students when some of our families are so busy working that they can't keep on top of family life and the standards that families stand for, as well as schools.
When you look at television, whether they're current programs that are made or the glut of reruns that go back to Father Knows Best and the Brady Bunch, do you not have a significant number of role models already in the media sector that present the positive, the goody two-shoes, by-the-book standards of American family life, so that if one comes along that's a little askew, it really doesn't tip the balance, but it makes it more real?
Well, my problem is that both role models are not realistic. You really don't have the goody two-shoes Ozzie and Harriet family, nor do you have the Bart Simpsons.
But on reruns of the Brady Bunch you do.
Yes, and I'm suggesting that they are both unrealistic.
And the Cosby Show?
I think that's a little bit unrealistic too. Though I think it's important for us to allow the Bart Simpsons to be in the media. I'm just concerned that we have given our society two extremes, and I'm suggesting that we need to become more realistic. Roseanne, for instance, is another unrealistic family setting where all these one-liners keep coming. It's not quite like that. It's okay for entertainment.
What would make it more realistic? I mean, you're a mother and an educator. What would be more realistic if you agree with Ms. Katz that we've seen the extremes on television?
We have seen that, and I wanted to get back to that point because she was talking about the effective role models. I'm concerned about the fact that they are planning to put this opposite the Cosby Show, and not necessarily to come and promote one show versus another, except that then you no longer have a choice, because at that point you either will view one or you'll view the other. On separate evenings of viewing, your family can look at it if they do look at it together, and I think that's also a concern as a parent, is that in the cartoon format that this show is presented, there are parents who have no longer are looking at the show or really examining it to see what it is that it portrays. Simply because it's in a cartoon format, they presume that it's children's programming. I'm not sure that it is children's programming. I'm not sure that it is geared to a children's audience. I think much of the humor, much of the things that I find personally very entertaining are lost on children.
But most of the cartoon shows that have been successful on television, you could say the same thing about Rocky and Bullwinkle. We all grew up watching that.
Bugs Bunny, too.
I
mean, Bugs
that
Bunny.
was a lot of in-jokes in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the levels are good, because I think that gives plenty to draw all generations into. And I know we've basically agreed on the proprietary nature of a school, but I do have to find it a little bit cautionary that we don't get too carried away. I mean, Groening himself would say, look, this is mutant family love. I mean, some experts say as many as 96% of our families are dysfunctional, whatever that means. That's kind of our buzzword. But in this case, this family, all the Bart acting out that we hear about so much, it seems even in the most extremes, they usually pull together at the end. There's something that's common to them. Now, maybe it might not be normal, but it's normal in the Simpsons context. And I think we should keep that in mind, that Bart doesn't exist alone. There's a wacky group around him.
And also, when you talk about acting out, does anyone at this table believe that a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old or an impressionable mind that is watching this show, will they emulate Bart in all aspects of his character, or are the precocious ones who are just normally precocious, are they going to be precocious and the other people are just basically going along for a ride, and they will not act out as Bart does?
I think you have this age group from 8 to 15, let's say. And I'm not sure that The Simpsons were meant for this age group. I think your point is well taken, Lillian. I think they're talking about reaching humor for the adult level. And it happens to have caught on with the younger group. But from 8 to 15, they are mimicking and acting out some of the phrases and wearing the T-shirts and so forth. And I think that's fine. I think we should allow for any age group, especially that age group, to find that place.
Well, they want to belong, don't they?
They want to belong. They want to be a part of a group or collective mind, and I think that's fine. I think where you draw the line is when it starts to come into school, and for that child who is the underachiever, who isn't making it, and so forth, that we don't simply think that this role model is the only role model. I mean, what about Michael Jordan? What about some of the other role models that we have here? I want to make sure that television is responsible and responsive to setting forth other role models.
Besides, what are the kids talking about in school when Simpsons come up?
Well, I've talked to several kids this week, just out of curiosity, since the Tribune article hit and the People magazine call and then WTTW, and just interested in what the children are saying. And
you're on a roll.
I mean,
you're
really,
a media celebrity.
That's what my son's fearful of. In fact, his directions to me before I left were, make sure you have nothing to do with being responsible for this show being taken off the air, because he's 21 and he's old enough to make his own choices, of course, and he finds it very entertaining. I did talk with some of the children, and when we're talking about the children who are achievers, let's say, whatever the definition of achiever is, children at least who are working at their capability, at their level. When you look at them, they look at it, they find it funny, they don't emulate it. I ask them, do you ever try calling your parents by their first name? Oh, absolutely not. You know, my parents would be very upset, I'd be punished. But they see that, they laugh at it, they realize there are certain things that he does that they would never dream of doing. Yet I talked with a couple other children who are on the fringe, whatever that is, in terms of achievement, and they do identify with it. I have not seen any of them come out and use you know, other than, you know, I don't have a cow man, those kinds of expressions. Not to you, attitudinally, I have not seen it. That doesn't mean that they wouldn't, over a period of time, begin to use those things and use them at home.
But by the same token, I mean, there's a void to be filled there. Those kids exist. I mean, you see kids in black heavy metal T-shirts, Anthrax and Guns N' Roses and Highway to Hell. I mean, they're going to be looking for anything, and I think it's kind of a bum rap on poor Bart. I mean, I'm sure he'd be whining right now that he would in any way, long or short term, at his most sociopathic, provide any sort of bad long-term example. And it's kind of hard to believe.
Now, Ernest, I mentioned a few moments ago that you know Matt Groening. You've spent some time with him, the creator, and this is a spin-off from the popular comic strip Life in Hell. Where do you think this character will go, knowing Matt Groening and some of the autobiographical aspects of The Simpsons?
Well, I mean, he'll be the first to say that it's 1/100th of his family. I mean, as we probably all know by the drumbeat of media now, that his father's name is Homer and his firstborn son is Homer and his mother's name is Marge. And there's a lot of autobiographical stuff. But he told me his real family is much more cartoony than this family. Bart's going to stay Bart. Bart's an anagram for brat. Bart rhymes and brat rhymes with Matt. And so he's going to be acting out. He's going to be going anywhere we can imagine a 10-year-old kid like him going.
Can I interrupt? Will he achieve?
Sure, he's achieved. I mean, he's on millions of T-shirts.
He's achieved something. He is certainly a discussion item. I just wondered if, will he have any success in school?
Well,
will he like it at any point in time in his life?
I don't think he thinks school is set up for success. I think he'll, in the very fine Rolling Stone article cover story, it talks about his philosophy, according to Bart, is that he would say quite flatly that educators don't like kids. And I know that's an extreme thing, and I wouldn't want to see that chanted at a classroom gathering, but you know, Bart is going to be contentious no matter what, but I think in his own way he's going to find a mutant sort of success.
Has Bart become a success to some extent because of you, Ms. Ides? Because had you not banned the T-shirt, People magazine probably would not have called, the Tribune might not have called, we might not have called, and maybe Bart Mania would have just sort of flittered away.
I'd like to take full credit for that. Unfortunately,
is there something to it? Are you creating forbidden fruit here?
No, I don't think so, because Ernie and I were talking about this before the show, and we had 2 incidences this year. I do work in 3 buildings, total school population about 1,500, and when you look at that as in terms of the populace, that's a very small percentage, and we handled it in a very low-key fashion, asking them please to turn them inside out and not to wear them again, and we didn't start to see a rash of them occurring the next day and in droves. I think parents are making the selection, and that's what the dress code basically says, that it is up to students and parents to select appropriate dress for their children, and I think that's where it appropriately lies. If they cross over the boundaries or over that, whatever that fictitious line is there, to what might be considered inappropriate, we make that decision.
Ms. Katz?
In the last 3 or 4 days, I've been asking my children, I have a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old, and students at school, teachers, and parents, if they watch the Bart Simpson show, The Simpsons, and nobody watches it from my group of people. I thought that was...
Well, they will now.
Now they will, and I think the point is well taken that we have to be careful not to overreact to anything like this. It has its place. I think the important aspect here, again, is whether or not we can handle these kinds of situations at school where the good role models, the good teachers, good is not the right word, but the role models are available to our students and make connections with them. And I want more and more of those opportunities to occur.
This past Sunday night, one element of the show dealt with the family going to see a family therapist. As someone who is interested in that particular area, what was your reaction to the way they treated the family therapy session, and down the road, could that create some fear for families who are in crisis?
Well, clearly, it's a spoof at every level. You know, it's a spoof, the boss-worker relationship, the therapist-family relationship, and I think we're looking at families who are in therapy and want to be in therapy and realize, well, they're making an extreme point about this. I want us to be very careful not to, and that's why I want Matt Groening to be a little bit careful, not to put these kinds of standards up as the standard.
We also should mention, for those that did not see the show, the family therapist was found because he had a television commercial on a pro boxing match on television. They went to him, and for $250 after hocking the family television set, they went to have this session, and in the course of the session things got rather violent, and you saw the show.
I thought it was
laughing
hysterical. I thought it was, they were zapping each other at the end with these little buzzers, and they drained all the electricity.
Aversion therapy.
Yeah, and they drained all the electricity, causing brownouts, and finally the guy kicked them out and had to refund twice their money.
You found it amusing, though, but for families in crisis, and getting to see a family therapist is still a stigma in many sectors of the United States and segments of society. Do you feel that because of the way in which that ended, where there was, certainly got their money back and they just said, you know, don't ever come back to see us again, do you think that some families would look at that and decide not to seek therapy when maybe they need it?
No, I think, again, not to flag a spiky-haired kid too much on this one, but two things real quickly. Let's remember it's entertainment first of all, and even in that, some pretty heady people put this together. Jim Brooks is no slouch. These are not schlockmeisters. There was a family that came out all gooey-eyed, and the therapy had obviously done whatever it was supposed to do in terms of normalcy. So if a family was watching up to that point and saw that, maybe they'd think, hey, this works. The other thing was that the doc was so patently a fraud, and like you said, the boxing, that it was kind of, it was like you know, any number of quack characters we've seen.
I think there's to me, there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of hostility shown towards the family, because we were talking about the buttons, and the therapist was convinced that at some point in time the family members would decide that they would stop buzzing each other, and of course they didn't. They shocked each other until they drained the system.
On that note, we are out of time. Thank you very much for all joining us this evening. Lillian Ides, Lucinda Lee Katz, and Ernest Tucker. I'm Bruce DuMont. Enjoyed sitting in this week for John Calloway. He'll be back on Monday. Have yourself a very good weekend. So long, everybody. It was also funny, one of the lines when he talked about, when he got into the fight at the bar, he said, the answer, our life solutions will not be found in the bottom of a bottle, they'll be found on television. So people may be turning to the Simpsons. That was a well-written, it's an extremely well-written show.
That's right. When I was watching it last night, I was extremely impressed with some of the lines that were very clear, succinct lines. And I think for that reason, you know, James Brooks and Sam Simon have done a great job.
Isn't this also cyclical? I mean, you know, 15 years ago, we might have been talking about Vinnie Barbarino, and if you were a teacher then, Welcome Back Kotter was going to create all kinds of disrespect for teachers.
The difference
is there any statistics to indicate that it
no, but I
acts
think that
against
the
teachers
thing that is